Okay, hello everyone. Welcome once again to another session of our labs. I'll call this one lab 2. And here, what we want to achieve is to disable our sudo timer on our Alma 10 virtual machine. Get me clearly, disabling the timer on our Alma virtual machine. And to do that, we need to configure sudo to always require a password every time it is run. Yes, because what happens is that when you call sudo for the first time, it requires a password, and when you call it after, it doesn't require a password. So what we want to do is that we want to disable the timer for our Alma virtual machine, and also configure sudo to require a password every time for our various users. So let us dive deep into what we are going to do for this session. Follow me. Okay, based on our last session, I'm pretty sure we had a good experience, and this time around we are going to continue working. So if you followed what I did last time, you should be able to just dive into this version, into this session that we are doing at the moment. So you need not to start back. So we are still on our Alma virtual machine. So, and today we are going to the objective is to disable a sudo timer on a virtual machine. So what we do is that we log in into our our virtual machine. When we've logged in, okay, let's just explain what I was saying. For example, when you do sudo whatever I want to do, let's just do this command. I am in my current account. I've not switched out the requirements or the instructions. Okay, we have this prompt first asking for a password, and secondly, that prompt has a certain timer. Yes, it has a certain timer. So what we want to do is we want to disable that timer. That's the first thing. And to ensure every time you run a sudo command, it requires a password. So there are two things that we are achieving in this task: disabling the timer and making sure passwords are required every time to perform any task or operation on our system. I think that is pretty clear. So let us dive deep. Okay, now just as I was saying, if I enter my password, it logs in now and does what it was doing. So if I do another thing, you realize it doesn't ask for a password no more. It doesn't ask for a password no more. So what we are trying to stop is that flow. So that's what we are going to do this time around. So we've logged into our Alma machine using the same virtual machine we used in lab 1. So now we run these commands. I think I've already demonstrated it already. Because you already prompted a password, and this time around it doesn't prompt again. It doesn't prompt the password for all that we do. IP tables. It doesn't prompt a password. So this is so the idea is that we want to make in such a way that it prompts passwords every time we run sudo commands like this. That's the concept that we want to do. And also the default time of our timer is 5 minutes. So what we want to do is that we are going to deactivate that timer and also ensure that every time we run a command, it it um it requires a password. So let us go further. Let us go further with our work. Okay, so now we are going to, still in my own account, I'm going to test once again. Don't mind if we are doing the same thing. It's because we want to achieve a desired result. So now we are going to introduce this command sudo k, and this command, this flag dash k, it resets the sudo time stamp. You can take note of that. K resets the sudo timestamp. So it resets the sudo timestamp. So it has been resetted. Remember, I did that. Hash reset is a comment, so it's ignored when you run in the terminal. So the command that ran was sudo dash k. The rest was ignored. So let's test if it actually resetted. So if we do sudo fdisk this again, it should ask prompt for the password again. So that is good. So what we want to achieve is that we want to reset that for our sudo. Every time you run sudo, it should always prompt a password. And also we want to deactivate the timer. So these are the things we want to do, and we are together. So now we, to achieve that, let us continue. Let us open the device sudo. Remember at the beginning, I made us understand that device sudo is a command that helps us safely edit the sudo file. Yes. So I said instead of using the nano, the jdit, or the vim, use this vice sudo because it's safe. While you're editing, it checks your commands you're entering are correct, and if there's a mistake, it's going to send a notification and notify that it's wrong. But when you use other editors, you may likely include vulnerabilities into your code and expose your system to unwanted persons. So this is the importance of sticking with this command. So now we do that. Okay, we are prompted to enter a password. Okay, we are not strangers to this file. Remember at the beginning we saw it, and we are still saying it right now. So okay, now the goal here in this file is to disable the time, the 5 minutes that we have to wait every time to, or not to wait every time, the 5 minutes we have to enter a password or something. Yes, that's what we want to disable. And so how to do that is, so we look for the default specification section of the file. So what we are going to be going to the file is, we are looking for the default section of this file, of the sudoers file. So to do that, we need to go line by line, slow as possible, to find out where we can. Okay, we've seen the default specification, as you can see. So remember, this is a special editor. We have commands that are unique to it. So we press I to insert. So here we want to do that. So we say defaults. Remember, the spaces are tabs. Do not forget timestamp, timestamp, time out. You set that to 0. So this code actually forces all the users to enter their passwords every time they use sudo. Interesting. So every time a users run a command now on this system, it will force them to enter their password. So you press escape, we write, and we quit. Should we try that? Okay, that's what we are told it will happen when we have updated that. So if we come back and test our code, we do sudo fdisk. You should prompt a password. Great. If you do sudo systemctl status sshd, should prompt a password again. Great. If you do sudo ip tables, you should prompt a password again. Great. This is important because this will ensure that somebody with a certain user password by chance, no, let me not say it's with the password, who has had access by chance will be restricted every time they try to do an operation, because every time they will be required to enter to authenticate themselves every time they want to do something in the system. And that is an advantage depending on the kind of system, the information system in which you are, the scenario in which you are. For example, in ATM machines, yes, ATM machines, when you insert your card, you enter your PIN. When you want to withdraw, you enter your PIN. When you want to check your balance, you enter your PIN. When you want to do anything, you check your PIN. So your authentication is not guaranteed. Every time you need to authenticate yourself, even when you have access to the system. When you want to do an operation, you authenticate yourself. So that is the concept here. Okay, let's proceed. Let's proceed to the next thing. Okay, great. And remember at the beginning I said there were two things we wanted to achieve in this task. Okay, which were to disable the time and to ensure that users enter their password every time, and not just to disable the time, to disable, let me verify that, to disable, to apply the time, to configure sudo to require a password every time it runs, no timeout, then apply it only for a specific user, and the specific user here was Lionel. So what we are doing as it's working now, we want to apply it only to Lionel and not to everyone else. So Lionel is the user because he has all the privileges. He's basically an admin. So what we want to do is that every time he logs in, he wants to do anything, he must always get authenticated. And like I was saying, it's very important because he has access to everything on our system. So he can be a dangerous person. So to ensure that he's the one every time, he's the person we are expecting, is that we set that configuration so that every time he has to do an operation, he authenticates. So without further talking, let us go ahead. Let us go ahead and okay, we are exactly where we configured last time. So this time around, we don't need to do much. Okay, I forgot. We need to click our I insert. So what we do is that this is what we do. This is what we do. We do a colon Lionel and we maintain colon Lionel and we maintain the code like that. So I'm sure we are together. So when you do that, it applies the no timer rule only to the user Lionel. So we can test that. So before we test that, just to be sure, I felt like I did a mistake. If you open the file, you should be able to see Lionel. Wait, we have applied that only to Lionel. So that is very important. So what we have to do is to test what we have just done to be sure if it's working as we want, really. So the exercise says that it says that okay, this is okay. To ensure that this works, we have to repeat the commands. So we repeat the commands that we ran: sudo fdisk. I'm not Lionel, I'm the other person. So it doesn't require a password no more. If I do sudo system ctl status sshg, it works without any problem. Sudo ip tables, it works without any problem. So it shows that the configurations we did for Lionel should work only for Lionel, because I am Godlove, I can access my system without any problem. And I believe it's so with other users. So now, to be sure that we are on the right footing, let us log in to Lionel account. Remember, don't forget your password. Always keep a simple password so that you can remember it all the time. Yes, and that is very important. So we've logged into the Lionel account. So to ensure that we really have achieved what we wanted, every command, let's just assume that it's showing like that because it's the first, right? Let's assume it's the first. To make sure we are correct is that let us try the second time again. Great, it asks us again. Now let's say it's because it's the second time. Let's try the third time. Sudo. Oh, it works. So right now we can confirm fully that it works as with one. So Lionel should be prompted every time because of the per user timeout that has rule that has been assigned to him. So it's very important, especially for him because he has full privileges, unlike Margaret and unlike Maggie and so on. So, for example, let's sign into Maggie. Let's sign into Maggie and see if what we did worked. So remember, the first command always asks us. We do fdisk. It's the first time, okay? But now Lionel will prompt every time, but the others should prompt only the first time. So if I do sudo ip tables, you see, it does not prompt, but they remind me that Maggie did not have the privileges to execute that command, and that is great. So we can guarantee that our system is working exactly as we want. So, and you can really see how it's important in information systems to secure your systems. Okay, there is this command that you can use every time. For example, my account, I'm using if you can see, your account name will always be displayed here. So if I switch to Lionel, it will show there. If I switch to Maggie, it will show there. So I want to discover the privileges I have on this account, on this master account. So if I run that, it takes me to the root. Let us go further. It takes me there. Oh, I think I run the wrong command. So if I exit, if I do sudo -l, okay, great. I ran the wrong command previously. So the command now gives us the right response. It says matching default entries for I got love on virtual box. That. But what interests me the most is this line. User iGlove may run the following commands on. Actually, I can run every command on that. So if you're in the other session, you can actually, if they tell you to restrict godlove to a certain command, you can do that by now. So it's the same concept. So I think the goal for this session has been attained, and let me just remind what we did. What we did was we deactivated the timer on the sudo command for a specific user, and in the process of deactivating the timer, it requested a password to be entered every time the sudo command is run. So that was what we have done in this exercise, and I hope you understood the purpose, the concepts that we have used, and I'm watching to see you later in our next session. Ciao.